Just to give you a little idea about where we're standing at the corner of Forbes and Murray. We're about 3 blocks away from the synagogue. It's about 3 minutes, just down this street. Now, earlier tonight, as far as the eye could see, people had gathered to be a part of a sense of a community, to be able to lean on one another. People were standing up and down these streets with candles, with Bibles, with just giving each other hugs and handshakes so they could have that sense of community. There was also an interfaith service inside a church just across the street where people told me they prayed for peace, both for the community and for those directly impacted. I spoke with a woman whose parents live 50 feet from the synagogue, and she heard about the shooting. She couldn't get a hold of her parents right away, so she was terrified until she got word that they were okay. I also spoke with a 13-year-old boy. He was at a different synagogue just down the street when the shooting happened. Of course, they heard about the shooting, and his synagogue actually went into lockdown, but he told me they continued to pray for about an hour or two while they were in lockdown. He said he was terrified. He didn't know what was going on, but he said they continued to pray both for their own safety and for the safety of the people at the other synagogue. Of course, out here tonight, a lot of tears, a lot of people giving each other hugs, just really not being able to grasp and to understand how this could happen, how 11 people could be shot and killed inside a house of worship.
All right, Lacey, that is so hard to comprehend. And of course, there were thousands and thousands of people there. In that crowd, was there anybody who was directly affected inside the synagogue, like if they had families in there?
Yeah, so we asked a lot of people about that, if they knew anyone who was inside at the time, and they said because it's only happened a couple of hours ago, they haven't been able to reach out to all of their friends and family who belong to that synagogue or who may have been there at the time. One man told me, I saw one of the women I used to work with on TV. I don't know if she was actually in the synagogue at the time, but this is such a small, tight-knit community here in Squirrel Hill that they said it doesn't matter if you know someone who was actually inside at the time, everyone is going to be impacted. Well, Lydia, right now we are at the Tree of Life Synagogue. You can see police are still on the scene. We actually expect them to be here for quite some time as they gather evidence of this absolutely horrifying shooting inside a place of worship. As you mentioned, just down the street here, less than 5 minutes, there was a vigil earlier tonight. About 1,000 people gathered. People were standing up and down the streets about as far as you could see. They were trying to get that feeling of community, trying to lean on one another through this very difficult time. There was also an interfaith service inside a church on that street where people told me they prayed for peace, both for the community and for those directly impacted. Now, I spoke with a woman who still had tears in her eyes. Her parents live 50 feet from the synagogue. She heard about the shooting. She could not get a hold of her parents. She was absolutely terrified until she heard that they were okay. I also spoke with a 13-year-old boy who was at a different synagogue just down the street at the time of the shooting. He told me his synagogue went into lockdown for almost 2 hours. He said they sat there, they continued to pray to make sure that everyone was safe and okay.
I'm an emotional wreck, to be honest with you. My parents live, their street is 50 feet away from Tree of Life. And when I first started hearing things, of course, natural instinct, I pick up the phone, I call my parents. I can't reach my parents. I went into absolute hysteria and panic.
I was really scared. I thought that maybe there could be another shooter in the synagogue that I was in, and so we went into lockdown.
And the main thing that I've been telling my kids is that it's not normal to hate people in such a way, and this person was obviously deranged, and that's not a human component to hate in such a way.
Yeah, this is such a hard thing for adults to understand. A lot of parents here have told me they're having a really difficult time trying to explain this kind of violence inside a place of worship to their children, try to explain how this kind of thing happens. Some of those parents told me they're trying to tell their kids they have to be aware of their surroundings at all times, even in a place where they feel they should be safe. Absolutely. The vigil inside is just ending. I'm told the 2,200 fit inside the auditorium. It was standing room only. There was actually an overflow crowd outside. It was a very emotional vigil with leaders of every different faith. Now, this has been the largest attack on Jews within the United States. Now, there was a united message inside. We will not tolerate hate. A place of worship, peace, and grace, now surrounded by yellow crime scene tape.
It was terrifying, and we were just so grateful to keep hearing sirens and knowing that the police were there and that more were on their way.
Molly tells me news of the Tree of Life shooting spread quickly to other synagogues in the area as they went into lockdown.
We were in services when this happened, and it was just heart-wrenching, and it was difficult not to know exactly what was going on because we're observant. We don't use electronics on our Sabbath.
11 people were killed inside the synagogue. 6 others were injured, including 4 police officers. Molly and her children wanted to make sure first responders knew just how much they appreciate their heroic efforts to prevent more violence.
I wrote, "Thank you for risking your life to save my Jewish community. Thank you for keeping the Jews in my neighborhood safe."
Synagogue members, friends, family, even complete strangers are leaving flowers to remember the 11 victims who were shot and killed. Officials say the synagogue could be closed for up to a week as they gather evidence.
I could not believe how close to home this was, living a block away, hearing officers being shot at.
Michael Aronson lives about a block away from the Tree of Life synagogue and heard the shots fired call. Were you concerned for your own safety at that time?
I was. I put my kids in the basement and told them to stay in the basement, knowing that there was open gunfire.
Aronson belongs to another synagogue, but says he's devastated by the violence. He put up this sign in his window as a sign of support and solidarity.
We as a Jewish community regularly come together as one, and this has hit home. Someone I went to school with, her father was one of the victims in this tragic incident.
And so the mayor of Pittsburgh has called this the darkest hour in this city. But out of that darkness has come some light. The Muslim community has gathered together $70,000 to help pay for funeral expenses and hospital bills. That Muslim leader also said to his Jewish friends here, "Tell us what you need. If it's money, we'll raise it. If you need us to stand outside as you pray, we will do it. Just let us know what you need." In Pittsburgh, Lacey Crisp, Cleveland 19 News.
Lacey, I do know that where the shootings happen, it's in a very nice neighborhood, so chances are somebody in that neighborhood was a victim of the shooting, correct?
Absolutely. We talked to a lot of people who were right in that area as the shooting happened. I mean, Squirrel Hill is a very tight-knit community. It's a very diverse community, and the mayor has said that the Jewish community is the backbone of that community. Tonight, they talked about the 11 members of that community who were taken too soon. It was standing room only inside, of the crowd spilled outside for this very emotional vigil with leaders from every different faith. Now, this has been the deadliest attack on Jews within the United States, but there was a united message inside. We will not tolerate hate. Thousands gathered to honor, remember, and to detest.
It feels surreal, honestly. My apartment is right on one of the main streets here, and yesterday all of the police cars and the ambulances were going by.
Catherine Fleischer is from Strongsville and is going to college in Pittsburgh and says it's heartbreaking to learn so many of her extended family members were shot and killed inside a synagogue. She wanted to come and be with others who are mourning and who want to act.
I'm hoping to hear people who aren't just upset, people who are willing to do something.
Jewish leaders echoed that sentiment.
Jew hating is not a distant memory. It's not a thing of the past, nor a chapter in history books. It is a very real threat. Anti-Semitism is a clear and present danger.
Pittsburgh's mayor exclaimed, "Bigotry will not defeat us. Love will conquer."
We will drive anti-Semitism and the hate of any people back to the basement on their computer and away from the open discussions and dialogues around the city.
Those from Squirrel Hill say while they are suffering from an attack on their people, it will not break or ruin them.
Jews of all types, doesn't matter what type, and non-Jews. We're all together in this.
The mayor of Pittsburgh has called this the city's darkest hour. But out of that darkness, some light. The Muslim community has raised more than $70,000 to help pay for funeral and hospital expenses. The Muslim leader says the Jewish community needs to tell them what they need. If it's money, they'll raise it. If they need to stand outside and guard as they pray, they will do so. In Pittsburgh, Lacey Crisp, Cleveland 19 News.